Welcome to the Soccer Coaching Podcast, brought to you in association with our friends at Soccer Coach Weekly, reflecting our shared ambition to help coaches have the most effective, enjoyable and successful coaching journey for them and their players. We hope you enjoyed this episode and thanks for listening. Hi Shane, welcome to the Soccer Coaching Podcast. How are you?
Scott, I'm very well, thank you. And thank you very much for asking me on. I'm looking forward to the chat with you.
Me too. As always, I'm excited by all the guests we have on, but particularly you. We were mentioning very briefly before we hit the record button that I've been following some of the things you've been putting out there and sharing through Twitter, and it always catches my eye and resonates with me. So I've been eager to get you on the podcast for a while now, and you've kindly said yes and freed up some time. And I know how busy you are, so thank you so much for that.
A pleasure.
For those that maybe aren't familiar with you and haven't been as stalky as I have on Twitter with you, could you share a bit about your background and what it is you currently do?
I will indeed, Scott. Yeah, my name is Shane Smith. I hold an honours degree in sports science and health and a master's in primary education. I work as a primary school teacher here in Dublin. I've heavily involved in coaching, I suppose, across all sports. I've coaching my children since my eldest is 11. I've been with her team from an early age, and my little boy is 9. I'm coaching his team from an early age, and I have another little one coming along in the next year or so, and I'll be back in there with the 5-year-olds in a couple of years' time. So that will be a good crack. It's good for the soul. Going back coaching 5 and 6-year-olds, it's good for the soul. It's a wonderful place to be. And I think when I finish my coaching and my children go older and they finish playing themselves, I'm not coaching them anymore. I think I will go back to that age group and go in and enjoy that, because the whole environment, the whole philosophy, it's just play, it's fun, it's enjoyment. So that's a great place to be. And yeah, I do a lot of coaching in school too. I probably coach every day through a variety of ages. I coach every day in school, be that PE or be it football at lunchtime. So every day I'll be doing something, definitely. So look, very enjoyable, very rewarding, and being on that pitch is a great place to be.
It keeps you young, doesn't it, with the little ones? That's the way to do it. I think that's the thing about coaching the young ones. It keeps you young yourself, right?
They absolutely do. And they keep you got to be energetic and be bubbly, and you got to get down to their level too. And there's no point in trying to overcoach a 6 or a 5-year-old in skill development. I think at that age, it's all about play and enjoyment and allowing that creativity and letting it happen organically around their play and fun.
I was speaking to someone yesterday about the fact I was going to talk to you today, and we were going to cover the topic of what is great coaching. And they looked at me like with horrific eyes and said, "Oh my gosh, like people can't even agree what coaching is, let alone great coaching." But I thought, the fact that, you obviously through the work within the school, you're going to cover a lot of sports that you coach. I know obviously you do a lot of Gaelic football and coach that. I kind of thought it'd be good to speak about coaching more broadly with someone that maybe isn't a soccer specific coach, which is quite good for us. Because we get a slightly different angle on things, even though the sports are quite similar. I think they're invasion sports and everything else, but it's just a different angle really. So if you're brave enough, the topic's going to be around what is great coaching. Does that sound okay with you?
That sounds okay indeed. Yeah, that's no problem at all. I think coaching is such a crossover with many sports. Coaching is play and fun and developing opportunities to improve and for children to develop at a task or a skill. And I think there's so much crossover between lots and lots of sports. And even the most recent studies are telling us that, it's so important for children to have exposure to a number of sports from an early age to develop their all-around abilities, be it throwing, catching, running, peripheral vision, spatial awareness, and all these benefits of playing multi-sports. I'm a big believer of multi-sports. So, I mean, my children play soccer, football as well locally, and they play Gaelic football and they play hurling and camogie, like the sports under the GAA banner. So, I encourage them to play numerous sports, and we do that in school too. And the skill sets do cross over.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So straight away, I'm going to give you a curveball here. It seems over here. So my boys play soccer. And for those that are kind of, I think, invested in soccer in England, it seems to be all encompassing. So you almost have to become like a bit of an early specialization in that sport if you want to kind of get to a decent level. I know some of the boys that are academies and some of the girls, they train every day, literally every day. Is that similar to what it's like in Ireland? If you want to play a sport, do you have to commit to it on an everyday basis? And if so, what's your views on that?
No, the younger ages at all. I think numerous sports are open to so many children here. and it's encouraged because the benefits are so much. Not just the physical attributes. What about the other side of it? Developing new friendship groups, learning from other coaches, learning from other peers in different areas. So much learning goes on. I remember, like, when I was a kid, I traveled a little bit to play football. I hadn't get the bus somewhere as a teenager. It kind of gives you that sense of responsibility as well. And you have ups and you have downs. But I mean, over here we encourage and we try and work together with our coaches of different sports. So if you train Monday with hurling, I'll train Tuesday with soccer. If you train Wednesday of basketball, I'll train Thursday for camogie or for Gaelic football. So I think the word communication, Scott, I think is the most important word when it comes to coaching, and for coaches to communicate with each other, with parents, with children. So no, I see massive benefits around playing numerous sports, it's particularly the primary school age level. That's like ages 5 to about 12 in Ireland. So massive amount of benefits of playing lots of sports and not specializing in one sport at that age. And I think specialization came from the 10,000 hour model that we spoke about. You need 10,000 hours to get to the top. But recently that's kind of been debunked a little bit. And there are far more benefits to playing numerous sports to help overall development, not just say linear development. So if you play like basketball, handball, like what's that doing for your peripheral vision? What's that doing for your ability to scan? And when you see the best footballers, I know Frank Lampard, Stevie Gerrard, look at clips of those guys. Before the ball came to them, they were almost scanning left and right to
Yeah.
see what the next phase of play would be. And if we can play games like basketball, handball, even chasing games, so we know where we are in our peripheral vision, can only benefit the overall skill set required for the sport.
And Shane, I know you obviously get involved in lots of sports. Am I right in thinking that Gaelic football is kind of like your main sport and the one you like to coach, or the one you spend most time coaching? Would that be correct?
That's correct. Yes. Yes.
And for those, and excuse my ignorance about this, I do know it. We've got a team not too far as to play Gaelic football, but I don't really understand the sport or how it works. Would you give us a little brief overview on what Gaelic football is and kind of some of the general kind of parameters in which you play the game in?
I will indeed. Gaelic sport. Gaelic Games was founded in Ireland in 1884. There are currently about 2,200 clubs in the 32 counties of Ireland. The players are all amateur. So you have your club, and then from your club, you may be good enough to represent the county. And if you represent the county of Dublin or Cork or Galway, you then go on and play in an All Ireland competition. And that's where the winner, the All Ireland winner, is the All Ireland's won, I suppose. So from a club perspective, you wouldn't see too many. Like, your club is your community. Your club is your parish, and your club is where you're from. So it's very unusual to transfer and to try and play really well for your club to get a move to another club. That's not our philosophy. It's mostly your club is your parish, your people. It's quite parochial, and that's your community. And my children now play in the club that I played with. And like, they wouldn't be going to another club because that's our community. So even, you see some brilliant children up in our club, fantastic. And we're a decent club, thank God. We're at a good standard. But there wouldn't be any thought of like transferring to another club. That philosophy, like, that we have in other sports, wouldn't be there in Gaelic games.
And what about the rules of Gaelic football then? What's the game look like? Like, how many players aside? How long are they? And kind of, I guess, what some of the transferences you might see across other sports that you see in Gaelic football?
Well, at the children's level, say under 7, 8, 9, for example, it's 7, 8 aside. And as the pitch would be like, say, rugby posts, for example. And if you kick it over the bar, you get 1 point, and if it goes into the goal, you get 3 points. So that's at the higher end. At the lower end, we're trying to encourage children to kick the ball more. So you get 3 points if it goes over the bar, and 1 point for a goal. So it encourages them to catch and kick the ball a lot more. So you're allowed 4 steps with the ball, then you have to bounce it, or solo. And a solo is when you volley the ball back to yourself and it comes back into your hand. It's physical enough. You're allowed to tackle the ball, but it's a physical sport, and that's Gaelic football. There's hurling as well. Hurling is played with hurls. I don't know if you've seen that before. They're just sticks, I suppose. And again, for yourself, similar well, not saying about like it's hockey. There's a ball and there's a stick, and that's the same in hurling. We've a hurling the ball, same pitch. The ball flies around, fastest field sport in the world, and absolutely fascinating to watch. And yeah, great sports for our children to play.
And am I right in thinking that Gaelic football it's quite a tough game, isn't it? It's quite. I'm sure for the young ones you tone it down, but I think you've got to be wider. So I can't see Neymar Junior playing Gaelic football. Would I be right in thinking that?
Oh, you have to be able to take the odd shoulder and the odd tackle
Yeah,
every now and then. But that's just immersed in you from growing up playing it, and that's just
yeah,
part of the game. Some love that side of it, some don't love that side of it. That is the game, and you adapt the situation. Some people are really very good at giving a shoulder, but that's a fair tackle. Some are really good at avoiding shoulders. You really have quick feet, and we think of all the coaching that we do. If you can give opportunities for children to avoid contact, to have a really good step, really good evasion skills. That will help them in the games when they play, because the last thing you want to be doing is going into contact with the ball.
for sure. Okay, brilliant. Well, look, with the theme of the topic in mind, like what is great coach, and I've kind of looked at maybe four different areas. So the coach would be one, the environment, some challenges, and also looking at kind of a session. Now, recognizing the fact that we're not talking about necessarily football specific or soccer specific here, just more about kind of like coaching more broadly. So my first question is really going to be around the coach, if that's all right. And I'd be interested to know, and I've seen some things you put out on Twitter, which I always think are fantastic. You seem to summarize what's in my head in 1,000 words in about 10 words, which is an art to be succinct. So well done for that, because it makes me think more clearly. But in your views, what would you say are some of the essential characteristics of a good coach, and why?
I think, Scott, that fundamentally good people make good coaches. And that's for me one of the fundamentals. And we always say, what is success? Well, I believe success is to keep as many as possible for as long as possible. I think if those children bounce in the gate every Tuesday, 6 o'clock, you're doing a good job. And they keep on coming back and coming back. If you can retain those children from under 8 or 9 through the teenage years, I think you're doing a really, really good job. And it's funny, the coaching philosophy you have. I mean, the longer I coach, the more I realize that, coach is not about developing over technically too young. It's about retaining players till a later age. And I really stand firm on that. We look at what makes a good coach. Well, being relaxed, being easygoing, being democratic and not autocratic, allowing children the platform to play, develop, and be creative, instead of trying to conform to a certain way that you want the game played. If we look at the movement patterns of our games, that be it the Gaelic games, it's soccer, basketball, whatever, like our court sports and our field sports and rugby, they're quite chaotic. Like, they're multi-directional, high intensity, chaotic opportunities to make decisions under pressure. Like, they're not linear. So if we can coach that way, we prepare players that way for a game. And I just love allowing the players to play in games and training. Just set up a number of games, and I use the term gamify. I love to gamify everything. And I don't believe there's any skill that we can't include in a game situation. For example, let's take soccer, you're passing the ball in pairs, and you're passing in pairs, but very soon the children will switch off to that. They'll disengage because we're not engaging them. But if we can set up in a square, for example, 8 or 12 gates, and you must get to a gate, 1, 2, 3 passes, go to the next gate. Instead of us saying pass, 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 or dribble, 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 put a load of gates out there. They got to pass in pairs through the gates. How many can they get through in 2 minutes? Again, we're dribbling. Dribble through gates, change direction, make your own decisions. And that's that autonomy aspect of coaching.
I guess that's that creativity, isn't it? When I started coaching, I didn't realize creativity would be quite an important part of what it is, what you need. I'm not very creative, but I'm getting better at it because I'm having to be, because for that very reason, right? You look at a practice and think, well, what do I get out of it? And actually, what can I create that's going to work for the players? I can do something quite boring, quite easy, but the challenge for me is how do I make it fun, right? So I guess one of the key characteristics would be creativity.
Yeah, and to engage them in that creativity, to engage them and to make it enjoyable, and to be happy not to talk. there's, there's something that I'm working on that. And the longer I coach, Scott, the less I talk. It's funny. The happier I am to hand it over, be
Yeah.
that in a 3v3 match, be it in a 4v4 match, be it in 3v2 going for goals, allowing them the opportunity to make those decisions. Because, you know, there's no point in talking all day long at training, because when it comes to the game, they have to make their own decisions in that match. And as a child is going through in a 1v1 against the centre half for a goal, there's very little we can do on the sideline
Yeah.
in terms
It's
of that player's decision making. So it's affording opportunities at training to give children opportunities to make decision, problem solve, figure it out, and then they own it then. And that's the key, handing it over.
I think one of the benchmarks for me is always how much I do the talking instructions on a game day, because the more I'm doing that, the less I got my coaching right, right?
Well, there are lots of really good studies on how competence can lead to confidence for children. So yes, encouragement really, really important. But if we keep saying, Scott, like obviously it's so important to encourage, but it's so important to encourage when we see something positive being done as well, instead of constantly saying, great pass, great pass, great pass, great pass, great kick, great kick, great kick, great kick. That after a while will fall on deaf ears. So what I mean by that is catch them doing well. So if you're working on a specific skill in football, you're looking to cross the ball and you're practicing crossing, you know, if you keep saying well done, well done, well after 50 crosses, it just they don't hear it anymore. But if you can identify areas saying, okay, really good foot position there, you struck the ball really well, excellent delivery. That's specific coaching. And as they get a bit older, that's what I try and bring into my coaching. But the younger ages, of course, it's a lot if it's not overly technical. As they creep up towards the teenage years, positive reinforcement is so important, yes, but they would like a little bit more specifics in my experience, and then identifying what to do well in terms of a skill set.
And still on the coach, then, how do you, Shane, keep yourself kind of in a place where you feel happy with your coaching?
We constantly have to, CPD, continuous professional development, is very, very important. I mean, I love to go on seminars. Even recently, I'm looking at the Belgian model of player development. I was looking at the German model of player development, the Norwegian model of player development. It's fascinating to continue to learn, because there's none of us ever make it in this business, Scott. It's a continuous journey of learning for player and for coach. It's never ending, and it shouldn't be. And if you have a real interest in the area, it's being happy to say, actually, no, and just step back and stop doing that. Like when I started coaching, I would have been that linear coach who liked things looking organized and in straight lines. And then I soon realized this coaching that I'm doing has zero relationship to what happens in a game. And I had to check myself and say, okay, this is not working. This is doing the players a disservice. So I went off and did some brilliant workshops with coaches in my younger years and looked at what they were doing. And I was just fascinated by the games that they played and how can I incorporate those games into my training. And that was games based around decision making, problem solving, figuring things out, and giving the ownership back to the players to make the decision. So like coaching is a journey which has no end, but it's a wonderful journey to be on.
Moving on then from coaching, I'm kind of passionate about the environment. I think to me that's almost the most important bit alongside the coach. So would you agree that the environment that a coach creates or helps facilitate is important? And if so, how do you go about trying to create a good player development environment for your sessions?
Well, you smile and say hello to everyone by name for starters. It's smile and say hello by name. It's massive. Like, I think it's so important to be relaxed as a coach when we're coaching children in particular, because we've had our day, Scott, be that a successful career where we achieved what we want to achieve, or be that it's a career that we perceive to be unsuccessful, whatever it may be. It's our own perception on that. But, that part of our lives, I mean, it's parked. And we've had our turn, and now it's their turn. And as we know it's their turn, we have to ask ourselves what they need and what they want, not what we need and what we want. So do we want to go back to those glory years? Of course we do. but we're not going back there. Do we want to go back and play again? Of course we do, but that ship has sailed for so many of us, and it's that awareness of, okay, that's gone. Now what's important now is the children's development. So to give them an environment where we're not emphasizing winning for starters, and that's a huge talking point, because there's no research to suggest that children are motivated to play sport to win. It's not there. So winning is nice. Of course it's nice, but it's not their motivation to play sport. They play sport for so many reasons. Three being to meet your friends, to develop socially, and to get better at a task. And that task aspect of developing their skill set is important to children. And that's that like intrinsic motivation. I want to get better at this skill for me. And then, Scott, regardless of the result at the weekend, they'll probably say to themselves, I'm happy with my performance. I got some good tackles, some good passes, some good scores. Intrinsically, a lot of them are happy with themselves. And if we can focus on what they're achieving on the pitch, and not just judging success by medals or trophies, because there are many barometers to success for children, and we can't just define that by winning only.
It's funny you say that, because so many times I've been to games, and at the end of it, whether we've won, lost, or drawn, the players don't care after about 3 minutes. The coaches are still either over celebrating or riling, or whatever else, but the kids don't care, do they? They're done with it. They want to know where the ice cream van is. Like, they want to go and just do something else, have a bundle. They're not bothered, are they?
And that's the resilience aspect of it. And if we want to know the importance of sport to children, I mean, after a couple of minutes, they're gone off, they're playing together, as you said, they're gone off on their bikes or their scooters, and like school tomorrow, I always say, school tomorrow, take it a bit to heart. For children, it subsides very, very quickly, and they just move on. So they'll ask themselves, what did I get out of this match? Did I enjoy that? Did I get equal game time? Did I get equal opportunity? Did I get maximum ball contact? Did I improve my skill set? And if they did, you'll probably find they're happy.
For sure. You mentioned at the beginning about the fact that the way that the Gaelic system, the Gaelic sports system works with that's very club and very kind of community oriented, which is fantastic. I think that was probably how grassroots football was over here. It's definitely changed in the last 5 to 10 years, but that's how it certainly was. You'd play for your local team, and you wouldn't go anywhere else, which I think brings a great community spirit. But also what it does there, I think it gets other adults involved in the process. So with you, Shane, like, how do you find parents maybe impacting on the coaching you're trying to do in either a positive or negative way, but like on neither really? Just are they closely involved in the process, and how do you manage that situation?
Well, I think that starts off with defining what you coach, Scott, and sharing that with the parents. So defining what your philosophy is, because if you define it very early on, it's okay. Everyone knows that. Like, my philosophy would be, when I coach my club team, it's that aspect of equal game time, equal opportunity, and everyone knows that. And we don't keep scores up to under 12 here in Gaelic games, so that's really good too. So it's non-competitive, so roll on, roll off subs, etc. But if you don't define what you coach, like parents, other coaches, or even children might define it for you.
Yeah.
So it's to be really, really, really definitive as to why you coach and what you're about. And you're about the community. You're about giving each child an opportunity to play. And we should never lose sight of that. So our parents, I like the idea of empowering parents, actually, and bringing parents in as coaches, getting the paperwork done and bringing them in as part of it, and creating a little community within your team. And I think that's powerful, because that way, everyone owns it, and it's not just yours. It can't just be yours, because sometimes you might miss a session, and isn't it great to have a number of coaches with you with that age group that can just be there, and the session fluidly moves along. And I think that's the empowering new parents is crucial to clubs' development.
And how closely would you work with any other coaches, maybe from other clubs or anything else? Or is it all kind of done in silo? Or would you have conversations maybe pre a game, like if you wanted to make sure the game was going to stay close and competitive, but also done the right way? Does it just happen, or does it not happen? Or do you have to kind of try and make it happen?
Sure, doesn't it all go back to people skills, communication skills as well, Scott? Most people are so accommodating. Like, I'll give you one example in particular. We had a match there last year, and we had, I think it was under 10, I think it was under 10, and we 21 children, and there was two pitches set up, and it was meant to be eight aside, nine aside, say, okay, nine aside. So there was two teams of nine, or maybe it was eight aside. Sorry, there's two teams of eight, and there was going to be three children subs on one team and three subs on the other team. So and there was two pitches set up. So we had a chat to coaches, and we said, will we quickly set an extra pitch up there? We 21 and day 21, and let's play three seven asides. And we all agreed that that was the best for the children. That was not a coach centered philosophy that what's in this for me. That was a mutual child centered philosophy of saying, how can we enhance this experience for the children? And what we did was set an extra pitch up, and we had 7v7 on three pitches, and they played maybe 10-minute matches, 12-minute matches each. Everyone got three matches, and it was a great experience. And that's such a positive experience with the other coaches say, what's best for the children? And I see that a lot now. I see that a lot. Coaches having that little bit of autonomy to have a chat. And there may not be like portable goals, Scott, but sure, look, just get two poles and work away, put the poles up, set a pitch up, and they still want to play. It's still play. And we're better off having 21 children moving and playing as opposed to only 16 and 5 or 6 subs.
Perfect. It's so true, isn't it? I mean, if you put them in the park together, if you left those kids alone for half an hour in the park, all of them, they'd sort out, wouldn't they? They'd get the game going somehow using whatever as goals and whatever side to make it work. So
jumpers for goalposts, Scott.
yeah,
That's it. We're all rearing on it. And I've seen the other side of that too. And a really well-meaning coach, we 20 and they had 20, and he said, let's play two tennis sides. And I said, I think that's a bit much.
yeah,
That's a bit much. But he said, no. And with the best of intentions, he said, sure, get them all on there, get them all playing. And he meant so well. His intentions were brilliant. So I just went along with it. I just went along with it. But the game turned out that there was 20 children and one ball. It just wasn't working. And
yeah.
and to his credit, he said, will we change it up a little bit? So we changed it up a little bit. We had 4 pitches, 5 asides.
Thank you for that. So a bit about challenges now then, because let's be honest, however much we try and create the best environment, be the best coach we can, there's always challenges. I wondered first, if you didn't mind, what would you say might be some of the challenges that you kind of face when it comes to coaching, and how have you dealt with those?
I'm at a very early stage, though. I mean, the younger children, I've coached at a higher level too, and of course, there are a lot of challenges there with adults in that if everyone wants to play, no one wants to be a sub, and that's different. But with children, some challenges. I mean, I don't know. I think coaching the children and defining your philosophy early on will help eliminate those challenges. Our philosophy is based around equal game time for everybody. So we don't really see too many challenges. We all see maybe I haven't faced too many challenges with parents, I must say, in the last couple of years since my children started playing. It's been positive experiences from our perspective. Have I seen other side of things where, like, the referee might be getting some stick, or parents could be encroaching on the sideline? Of course, we see all of that. But 90% of it is really, really good. And of course, you're going to get that little bit, but I haven't seen it from my club and the teams that I play with, thankfully.
One of the questions we get asked quite a lot is how to deal with maybe a player or a few players in like a team or a squad that maybe aren't as engaged, and maybe even some low-level disruption going on. Not necessarily bad kids, just ones that maybe don't want to listen when you get them in for the talk, and the ones kicking the ball away, that kind of thing. Obviously with the teaching background and plus the coaching side, any wonderful words of wisdom that you might suggest around how we might deal with some of those? I guess the first thing is get our own show together, right? So trying to avoid those moments as much as we can. But beyond that, anything else you might suggest?
Well, I suppose there's no answer to this because every single child is unique and an individual and their own little person. Two perspectives: the holistic perspective and the coaching perspective. The coaching perspective: create as many games as possible in small sided areas where they're engaged as much as possible. In my experience, and a lot of the messing in inverted commas will start if they're waiting for a turn. So they're disengaged in the session. And I don't think that's the child's fault because they're not setting up that session. That's we need to look at that and say, okay, how can I do this better? So they're constantly moving, constantly engaged. So if you have 16 children training, you might set up 4 stations, and station 1 could be fun games and relay races. Station 2 could be, 2v2 match. Station 3 could be, a game around dribbling through cones. And station 4 could be some shots on goal and some goal scoring. We're always moving in those stations. It's multi-directional decision making, high intensity. So we're not static. And they might spend 10 minutes with each coach developing those skills. And that's the practical side of it, which is how we can set up our session. The holistic side of it, do you know that child who others will say, oh, that child always wants attention. That child always wants attention. Well, Scott, maybe we should give that child attention. Maybe we should just take 5 minutes because we don't know what went on in that child's school day. We're not privy to the home environment or how the day went for that child. So we can't really judge. But if we see a child who wants attention, and traditionally we might say, put that child out there, get them out for 5 minutes. Well, maybe it'll be far more of an investment to actually give the child time, 5 minutes, have a chat. How are you today, John? How was your day? How was school? Looking forward to training. You were brilliant last week. Catch the child doing well. Positively reinforce all their attributes. And you're starting off to a flyer in that session.
The other question we get quite a lot is about players that maybe struggle to show their competitive side, so that they maybe like the game they want to play, but they don't always get stuck in quite as much as the coach may want them to, or maybe even they need to kind of help develop themselves. From my experience, that tends to kind of pan out over time. But from your experience, again, any top tips around trying to encourage players to bring out their competitive side?
Yeah. Well, here's the magic question. I'll ask after a game with any child I coach, did you try your best? And if the child tries their best and they're really adamant they tried their best, isn't that success for that child? I tried my best. Unfortunately, some of the questions we ask after a match is, well, here's the number one question, Scott. It's coming here. Did you win?
Yeah.
Right? And after that question,
did you score?
And after that question is, did you score?
Yeah.
Now, you picture a child who hasn't won or hasn't scored, and we're immediately setting them up for failure there. So our line of questioning as parents, as grandparents, aunties, uncles, friends is so important post-game. And I remember being asked after, did you win there? No, we lost. Oh, did you get a score? No, I didn't. Oh, you walk away there.
The look of disappointment in the eyes and, oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, how about questions like, did you enjoy that?
Yeah.
Did you try your best?
Yeah.
Now we're setting them up for success because A, yes, I did try my best. And B, do you know what? I did enjoy that. On who was that match against? Developing geography in them. Where was that match? Where was it played? How did you get there? Yeah. All these questions that are really valuable and far more valuable than did you win or did you score? Now, we've all been there and we all ask those questions, but it's a work in progress.
Okay, and then the final part of this I was going to look at really was the session itself. So again, recognizing the fact that, I don't know, a soccer coaching session may be very different to how you set up one of your Gaelic football sessions, but let's have a look and see. When it comes to putting the session on, do you have kind of a structure that you tend to follow? I appreciate you probably different games within that, but do you have a format that you follow, or do you keep it different from each week to each week?
Yeah, I think you have to engage the children with many, many ideas and many different games, Scott. But I always go back to the point that, there's none of us reinventing the coaching wheel, and the skills of our games don't change. How we coach them changes. So my sessions that I set up would be standard station coach. I'm a big believer in station coaching. So with a team that I coach, say there could be 20 children or 24 children, we'd have 6 at each station and 4 stations. Depending on the coaches that we have, we'd have 4 stations. And within those stations are skill development, fun, and matches. And after they've done 7 or 8 minutes at each station, we bring them in and we'll pick teams for matches. We might play then 4v4 or 66. So that's how we would design our sessions. And I think there's so much learning going on in smaller groups. The children that get lost in big groups are the children that don't improve. And as we know from research, children want to get better. So it's meeting their needs at their level in order for them to improve. And that's the retention aspect. So smaller groups to me are so important because you can, number one, include more because they're all involved in the game. And number two, you can, if it's only 4 to 6 in the group, you can help them with little technical aspects too. Should you need to step in and say, no, punch your foot this way, or just small little snippets. So I'm a big believer in small groups for both inclusion, for development of skill sets, and for fun and enjoyment.
And would you work on like a theme each week? Would it be something built around the game, or would you just kind of be more open to whatever the group needed from week to week?
Yeah, we'd have teams like if it's Gaelic football, we could look at like catching, you know. So catching is a very, very important skill in Gaelic football. And if you know, Scott, first touch, if you got it, you're working on first touch all the time because if first touch isn't good, you won't get a second touch. So first touch is so important. And I create when I'm at clubs, delivering a pitch session or delivering a coaching seminar. We always talk about the value of first touch and creating games around catching. So if you can picture a tennis court, for example, there are so many games we can play using a tennis court, or even just set up a tennis court with poles, for example. You can throw and catch over the poles. You can kick and catch, and you can develop that first touch in that environment. And same with football too. You can develop a nice little volley over the net, and all those little games you can play to develop first touch and close control. So make it into a game, Scott. Gamify everything.
And if I was one of your players coming to one of your sessions and I've turned up, what would I see when I first arrive? What would be my first maybe 5 minutes of the session? Because I asked this question because I always think that the first 5 minutes is quite important. We have like a free play session when you start with us. We make sure there's pitches up and there's balls out. But I think the beginning and the end is often the bit they remember the most. If I was one of your players, what would I come to when I arrived?
Isn't free play powerful?
It
You
is,
know,
I
isn't
think it is the most undervalued tool that coaches use. When I see sessions, the amount of coaches that don't start their session with play is unbelievable. And for me, it's probably my best bit. I'm least involved in it, and the kids love it the most. And they turn up early to come and play free play. So I don't know why people don't value it more. But yeah, I'm a big advocate. What about you then at the start of your sessions?
coaching is also knowing when not to coach and being happy not to coach and being in that bloom, that 5 minutes before training. What you generally see is, and you'll see they'll head straight to the goal and try and play crossbar challenge. They might play chasing. They might discuss the school day, and they might just pass in pairs or have a chat. And free play is powerful. And I probably learned that by accident when the children I was coaching were 7 or 8. My little girl's 7 or 8, and we were trying to increase the numbers. We set up a station format, and one station was, we called it the PlayStation. So they went there for bean bags, for big footballs, small footballs, tennis balls, throwing and catching games. And when the children came up and saw the stations, they didn't go to a skill station immediately. They went to the PlayStation. So we quickly realized that like they really enjoy this. So if they want to do this, let's do more of it. So we kept incorporating that into the sessions, and the numbers started to grow. And they weren't going because we were developing technical skills at an early age. They were going because training was play.
I think we stumbled across, don't we? But when you see it, don't ignore it, right? That's the kids are showing you
Yeah.
something, they're telling you something. So embrace it. Thank you, Shane. I wonder
Also,
then.
that's Scott said. It's also so important to catch them doing well. As coaches, we often think that it's our job to fix everything, and but it's their job to catch them doing well as well, and to positively reinforce what they're doing well, and not to fix every problem that we see. It's okay to step back and let them keep on playing till they figure it out for themselves, and therein lies the learning, figuring it out for yourself. Therein lies the learning.
I know you're kind of a big reader and you research loads about these things and you're on top of your game with regards to kind of coach development and player development and being a good coach. How do you potentially see player development evolving over the next 5 years or so? Anything drastically going to change, or do you think it's a case of just getting on with what we're doing and trying to do it even better?
Yeah, well, I think we can always do it better. I think we're learning more and more now. We are saturated online with what to coach. We have ample, ample, ample ideas out there. You just type into Google coach basketball, coach football, coach rugby, you will get so many ideas on coaching. We have the what to coach, and I think we're learning so much more now in recent years about why children play and how to coach them. So we're moving on to the why and the how. And those areas are fascinating. Why do they play? Well, they play with their friends and have fun, develop social skills. And they're fascinating areas, and how to coach them while coaching them in a game-based environment where decisions are made under pressure, just like the match they play at the weekends. I would love to see us slowing down as well a little bit, Scott. I love to see us slowing down. Sometimes the race to elitism knows no bounds. I'm sure you've seen that too.
Oh, true. Yeah. It almost becomes the focus, doesn't it? I mean, the danger with that is, I think, and I see how people get caught up in it. But when you see maybe kids your own kids' age kind of going down a certain path, it's tempting. Like, maybe I could chase that down as well, and it becomes a bit of a fulfilling prophecy in some ways that you end up getting sucked into something. You have to sit back and reflect a little bit. But yeah, maybe it's back to your point you said earlier about knowing this, knowing the players, knowing what is right for your kid, and just keeping it fun, right? And where it lands is where it lands.
Exactly, and let's look at the statistics. Like No Hunger in Paradise, Michael Cavan's book. It's just brilliant, and some of the statistics in that are fascinating. It's like 0.012% will make it. So one in 8,300 children that are playing grassroots soccer in the UK this weekend will play Premier League. One in 8,300. It's tough. It's a tough journey, and we can't just define a child by how good they are at football. There's much more to a child than just the definition of you are a footballer and off you go. It's just developing so many other aspects of that child, because unfortunately, Scott, like football is and sport in general, there's so many people in their teens and early 20s who carry a sense of failure with them because unrealistic expectations were placed on their shoulders by coaches or parents, and both from a very early age. And what we're left with, 16, 17-year-olds with no pro contract and back into the real world. And that's so tough on them. So it's to try and identify various aspects of a child and not just define them as the player.
I think the other point to that about the defining your kid on the success of their sport and ability. Also, I think as parents, don't define your ability to be a great parent on how good your kid is at a sport, particular sport. That's not what this is all about, is it? It's one aspect of what they do. And actually, I think the life skill element to me has always been more important than the sport itself. So, trying to teach the children about, being resilient and being maybe a leader or communication skills and those kind of things, or a good team player. It doesn't really matter what it's around position around football in my case, but it's more about those life skill things, because they may not make it into an academy or into a professional club, and that's more than likely that's not going to happen. But they're going to end up being young adults at some point, right? And if this has helped them be a better young adult, well, then that's time well spent.
Yeah, and sport can teach so much more than sport. And you mentioned them all there: resilience, leadership skills, communication skills, all such important skills in the real world of life. Engaging someone in conversation eye to eye, powerful, powerful attribute as we go forward in life. And those skill sets stand to children so much. And there's more to a child than just being the footballer. And I think moving forward, we are beginning to become really, really aware of that. And also, like Scott, not to forget our late developers. Gosh, there are ample examples of late players who came from nowhere. We just have to look at, I think, Ruud van Nistelrooy only got seen by scouts when he was 16. Ian Wright, the Arsenal legend, Ian Wright was almost 22 in 1985. when he signed for Crystal Palace, almost 22. More nearer to where we are now. Jamie Vardy got his first contract at 23, pro contract. There
Yeah.
is time.
Yeah.
And some people are slowing down the race to elitism. There is time, as many as possible, for as long as possible. And then magic things can happen if we're just that little bit patient. They may not be magic things in terms of going professional, but being in that environment of good people, developing those leadership skills, resilience, developing those friendship groups. I mean, how many friends have you got through football over the years?
It's the social bit, isn't it? It's massive, isn't it? Yeah, you see it now even with the young ones. Like they're all their birthday parties is all their mates from their football teams, or that's what it is. So, okay, my final proper question, if that's okay, we ask all our guests this: if there was just one thing you could change about the world of coaching, and you may have covered it already in an answer, but if there was one thing, what might that be?
Recently, I was tweeting there about the philosophies that Germany have introduced. They're going to revolutionize the foundation phase. Looking at the Real Sociedad Academy as well. Looking at how Norway develop their players. They focus on participation early on, and multi-sports are encouraged. But for me, I think we have to continue to allow children play in an environment that we don't keep scores and don't keep league tables. So not keeping scores, not keeping the league tables, because that takes the pressure off everybody. Managers, of course, as well, and may feel under pressure to get a result. But if we can continue to let children just play in a non-competitive environment, well, they'll bring their own competition because they want to be first to a ball. They want to score a goal. Competition is healthy once it's healthy competition. So I'd love us to see us move to that stage. And secondly, I'd love to see us to reduce the numbers of players per pitch.
So smaller formats of the game.
Definitely smaller formats, maximizing every child's opportunity to be included, fundamentally, to feel involved in a team, and at the same time developing the skill sets, because in a 3v3 or a 4v4, of course, you're going to get much more ball contact than an 8v8. So I think to look at those areas, smaller sided games, and not keeping scores, keeping the league table up to like what Norway did under 13, I think is very beneficial.
Awesome. Shane, thank you so much. What about you then? What's your plans? You're busy with the family, busy with work, busy with everything else that's going on. Is it just business normal for you now for the next few years, or anything dramatic planned in the next few years?
No, nothing dramatic. I'm so privileged when clubs get in touch with me to come out and speak to the clubs about coaching or do a seminar, deliver a pitch session. It's such a privilege. No, I thoroughly enjoy doing that at the moment, and I'll keep on coaching my kids' teams, keep on teaching in my wonderful school, and keep positive and keep catching people doing well when I coach them.
Well, I loved your quote at the beginning when you said good people make good coaches. So that's something I'll hang my hat on that, and I'll see if I can be a good people. I guess great people make great coaches as well, don't they? So we can keep aspiring to be even better than we already are. And, brilliant. Look, if people want to reach out to you, Shane, and find out more about you or follow you or anything like that, what's the best way of going about that?
Yeah, just I do. I receive a lot of DMs through my Twitter page and a lot of traction through Twitter, so they can get me on Twitter. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll put your Twitter handle in the show notes. That's okay. And I'm sure you'll get a few messages from listeners. Thank you so much for your time today, Shane. It's been great covering the topic. You've been a great expert witness on it for us, given your background and what you do. And it's quite nice having a bit of a different angle from just soccer, as we always speak to soccer coaches. Would you come back on again, maybe in a few months or a year or so's time, and update us on how things are going?
I'd be absolutely delighted to come back on, Scott. So please extend the invite again. I'd love to come back on.
Our pleasure, Shane. All the best.
Take care.
This episode was brought to you in association with our friends at Soccer Coach Weekly. Established since 2006, Soccer Coach Weekly is a leading source of inspiration and advice for all grassroots coaches. Join thousands of youth soccer coaches just like you, saving time and effort in their goal of having the most effective, enjoyable and successful coaching journey for them and their players. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode.